Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our February 10th, 2026 Board of County Commissioners meeting. It is our 9 o'clock board briefing meeting. Let the record reflect that we have 4 commissioners present. Commissioner Kearns, Commissioner French and Waldrop, and myself are in the conference room. Commissioner Kearns is on Zoom, and we will get started with Mike Burgess.
Morning, commissioners. I'll just jump right into it for you. Today is the halfway point of session. Today's day 30 of 60. Yesterday was the fiscal committee cutoff, so kind of the second major cutoff of the session. And then we're going to be out on the House and Senate floors for the next week or so till the 17th is the next cutoff. So all the House bills got to be out of the House, Senate bills out of the Senate, policy bills. And then things will shift into the budget. So I have the budget release there. We've been told the budgets will release on a Sunday, the 22nd. So finish with floor action on the 17th, get back into opposite House policy committee, and then we'll see the budget on the 22nd and react to that at that time. So just grinding away on the floor now, like I said, until the 17th. On the budget release, obviously that will be capital. I assume it'll be capital and operating. So we'll have to look at things in terms of the impacts to the county, in terms of cuts and potential given with the budget, the deficit that the legislature is facing. So more to come on that in a few weeks. Last week I mentioned the income tax legislation, and I mentioned that because there's a provision in that bill that dealt with money to public defense. That by the time when I had mentioned it last week, I hadn't seen the bill language. There was some concern in that bill about the way the money was distributed in the public defense portion. So 5% of the revenue generated by the state's income tax would go into this account that would be distributed to counties. And it was going to be modeled more after, or the original version had language that would have done the distribution based on where the money came from, not necessarily needs. So if that makes sense, it was going to be disproportionate to some of the more larger urban counties on the west side. You can imagine, because that's where most of the millionaires are, at least I think they are. And anyway, that wasn't maybe the best formula. So there's been some discussion over the weekend, and then the bill was passed from the Senate Ways and Means Committee yesterday. It increased the amount of money from that would go to this pot of money from 5% to 7% of the total. There is still a desire by WASAC and other public defense advocates to increase that money further. And then the distribution formula, though, was changed to more of an, I guess my word, but a more equitable formula that the WASAC staff put together. So only present that to you as an update to where things are. Clearly that bill and that whole issue is going to be one of the things that dominates the next 30 days. But there is that piece of it that I wanted to, that does have a county impact, and wanted to make you aware of where the situation is now. But speaking on behalf of WASAC, which I don't want to do, but I guess I will. They'd like to see that 7% amount bumped up. Still working towards that, but the distribution formula has been addressed. Do you have any questions about the budget and the income tax legislation?
So thank you, Madam Chair. At the LSC meeting on Thursday, we did have a general conversation about the millionaire's tax, and but we did not make a decision. I think the goal is to have a meeting this, I think it's Friday, where we'll weigh in and either go pro, con, or neutral on the bill. It was interesting. Those that spoke in favor of it just because of the indigent defense or public defender and staff, WASAC staff pointed out that that doesn't cover all of the exposure that counties have. It's just a fraction of it, and that it would have to be significantly increased to cover indigent defense. But the feeling of some of the folks was that it's more of a carrot well, maybe it's more of the stem of the carrot that was thrown out to try and win support. So, but Wasack did not take a position yet as to whether they're gonna support the bill or not.
Right, Commissioner, and hopefully I wasn't implying that. I was just talking about the formula. So if I did imply that, correct that.
Mike, so you're saying that there's a new formula for how it would be distributed? To
Yes.
different counties? And so is that based on like incomes of different?
So it tries to model the way current public defense dollars are, but it does deviate from that. And there's percentages in different things in there, Commissioner. So it's too complicated for me. I don't want to explain it here. So what I will do is I will copy and paste the sections of the bill because when you read it, it's pretty self-explanatory. But it would probably just be complicated to communicate it this way. So how about I get that formula to you once we're done? Does that work?
Yeah, I'm just curious. So what?
Yeah.
And when you say so the 5% goes up to 7, so there's been
Right. So that's of the revenue that the income tax would generate. A 7% in the current language of the bill, 7% of the entire amount generated per year would go to this public defense fund that's created.
okay, thanks for the update.
Yep. Okay. A new bill that we have not talked about, but I wanted to raise with you is 2389. It's got a companion 6062, but it's 2389 is the bill that's going to move. Ron, that's the one I think I sent you a bill report link there. So the bill deals with juvenile justice and sentencing and a number of, kind of different issues. It's certainly complicated when you're dealing with, juvenile issues and, what sentencing should be for different crimes and things like that. I raised this with you because there is a big concern in terms of cost associated with it for the county, among other things. But if some of these sentences were to be changed for crimes that are committed by folks under 18, I'm told there's tens of millions of dollars in terms of impact on counties. That's a statewide number. And so clearly, if you extrapolate that to a Spokane number, just based on population, you'd think it would be into the millions for the county. So there's a cost issue with this that, of course, fits within the legislative agenda. This isn't necessarily an unfunded mandate, but it's a state policy or a legislative policy change that will affect the county's budget. There's also some other issues in the bill in terms of judicial control and taking away, judicial discretion when doing sentencing. And then there's changes in the sentencing grid in this bill. And I think one of the issues with it is the bill wasn't really stakeholdered. Like a lot of the folks involved in the criminal justice system were not involved with this. It was a bill that was introduced. You can guess who the advocates would have been that wanted this to be introduced and discussed. I'm certainly not making a judgment about the validity of the bill, but just wanted to raise the issue with you in terms of, like I said, the cost, maybe some of the policy impacts. And the crimes they're talking about in the bill are similar or at least related to, and I know there was a recent case I read about in the Spokesman where there were some youth there that assaulted a gentleman in Spokane. I don't know all the details of it. I just glanced through the article, but those are the kind of cases that we're talking about. I raise it with you because Wasack is probably going to reach out and do one of their alerts on this because the bill is moving through the process. And because of those concerns with cost and then some of the general policy issues, wanted to at least make you aware. This is probably a lot for you to digest, just in 5 minutes to offer a position on it, unless you're confident to do that. But it's probably something that we need to focus on between now or for the next 30 days because this is a priority bill. I've been told it's a priority bill anyway for the majority, at least in the House. Those are things I've been told. I haven't talked to somebody in the House majority to confirm that, but just in talking to my colleagues, that's some of what's been passed along to me. So if you have questions, I can get you more information about it. But again, like I said, I think you're going to see a WASAC alert on this. So I wanted to make you aware and answer any questions if I can. If I can't, I will get you answers.
Mike, thanks for sending this to me this morning. It gave me a chance to work up a little summary that I gave
Oh,
this morning.
excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to help. I also reached out to the prosecutor's office, our juvenile prosecutor, and they've been actively working to oppose this. So going through their email chain, 2 quotes I'll just put before the board. This appears to be a money issue wrapped up in notions of solving racial disparities, and it's another attempt to shift state expenses to the counties. So prosecutor's office is definitely opposed to this, if that helps with your decision.
So where do the increased costs come from? Is it in the new hearings? Where's the costs coming in? I'm just trying to understand.
I haven't had a chance to look at this extremely.
So
close.
Commissioner, sorry, I have to interrupt you. Commissioner,
No,
I think
go
it
ahead.
comes from because the folks, let's just say a person under 18 commits one of these crimes, but they'd be involved in more in the state system. And then as a result of this bill, they would not enter the state system. Having said that, though, I mean, I'm way out on my skis on this, like in terms of how these sentencings works, but I believe that to be the case. So that's where the county impact would be. So essentially the state is shifting things that they would have been doing down to the county level.
Yeah, it's some of the.
Because you
costs
might be
down.
going to state facilities, but now they
Correct.
might help in our facilities.
Correct.
New review hearings, expanded appeal processes, treatment, supervision, diversion, all increasing.
Well, and part of this is because the state has underfunded and underprovided juvenile detention facilities statewide. And so in lieu of building more facilities, they want to pass the buck on to counties.
And not only just pass the buck, but also there's a presumption that they should not be incarcerated.
Yes,
So we don't have the facilities, so let's just put them somewhere else.
more programs.
Yes.
And we saw this with the state issue last year where they weren't putting the juveniles into the state facilities and they were pushing them back into the counties. And so they backed off on that right away. So it seems to be trying to weave a lot of things together into one bill. Because that was, I mean, I think Pierce County was the one who led the charge on that. And as soon as they started leading the charge, King County was there and we were there. And then the governor changed his position, this previous governor. So.
I mean, similarly with the changes to in last session, changes to the youth who are out of school, Becca changes. I mean, personally, I know our juvenile system tries to everything they can to keep, I mean, we already have a system in Washington State that's trying to keep kids out of, out of the jails as much as possible. But again, the state wants all these alternatives to incarceration, but where's the funding? I mean, I'm all for more community programs and ways that we can do that. But where is the funding to support that community-based approach? So again, we keep hearing about this community-based approach. I'm not necessarily opposed to that, but where is the funding to go along with that? We're supposed to come up with that at a local level.
That's the plan.
That's what's frustrating. So there's no funding that would come with like these changes, just like with the Becca bill, there was no funding.
Right.
Came with the changes to say, oh, well, we're gonna have a different approach to, keeping track of kids and schools. But then there's no funding to support alternative approaches.
I
Okay,
think those things are all accurate, commissioners. So it sounds like I'm hearing a bit of consensus to, work with the Wasac folks in opposing or at least seeking changes to the bill.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, and then now just transition to the bill list of items that we've talked about throughout session. Not so, and part of the reason is this is so redundant is we're just at the point in session where there's not a lot new that's going to be introduced because it wouldn't make it. Other than there'll be some budget bills that'll show up late, so we'll pay attention for those. But so not a lot new here, but 222201, that's the one that we talked about early, I guess 4 weeks ago when session first started, about the development regulations in the UGA. That bill is dead, so I'll remove it from the list. But when we had spoken last week, it had not died yet, but it is no longer going to be considered this session, so we'll remove that. The waste to energy bill did move from committee yesterday, from the appropriations committee, and it was amended again. I had talked to my city colleagues about that bill when it left the policy committee. We talked about this, I think, last week, and they weren't necessarily, they were still working to make some changes to the bill, want to get it in a different condition. And I don't know if that happened when it came out of committee, but I'll follow up with them on that. That tax increment financing bill, you'll remember we were watching this one because there was a chance to amend in the public safety language into the RCW we use, which I think is 3989. That did happen. And so that bill has that piece in it now, which is good news. So we'll have to monitor that as it's going through, but that's what I changed it to support because of the position on your agenda that this is one of the items that we wanted to work on. So the public safety portion is in there. I know Commissioner French, we had talked about in the other bill doing the, I guess we'd call them, the transportation side, the DOT side. That this bill does not include that, but it at least includes the public safety facilities. The next bill is the bill dealing with the homeless response and preempting local authority in terms of how you deal with those issues. We talked about that last week. That bill has moved to rules. It's still an issue, but just updating you there. 2655 was the bill dealing with the data center tax issue and that bill was supposed to come out of finance yesterday and it did not. And I don't know, I haven't spoken to Representative Ormsby or some of the other advocates to find out why. It is a fiscal bill, so technically it could be exempt from cutoff, but I need to do some digging there to figure out why the bill did not move. That aquifer recharge area bill is moving, so that's good news there. That's the one that we had supported. I'll jump to the bottom one, and then Scott Chesney, I'm hoping is there, maybe not, to talk about the development zones, that commercial one. But the state tort claims issue, that bill is moving. Matt, that's one that you had raised with me, and then we added it as support last week. And then back to the second from the bottom, that's the residential development zones. So that bill, remember, that's the one resident in commercial zones, and that bill has gotten better, to my knowledge. Oh, there's Scott. Thank goodness. My land use expert has shown up.
Go ahead, Scott. You can comment to it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah, this is been the concern from Wasac too. So it's got some wide-ranging concerns. Some of the recent amendments have made it a little bit easier to deal with, but essentially, aside from a solution looking for a problem, part of this is talking about adaptive reuse and wanting to not prohibit residential in commercial structures on ground floors. And yet in the county, we already allow residential in most of our commercial zones. So in one way, it's not much of an issue for us. The prohibition has been softened to allow for a study that shows that it makes sense. And that's probably the best escape route or off ramp for this if we were going to support it or even remain neutral. as we've been talking with all of you about this neighborhood zoning, neighborhood commercial concept of mixing these uses, so you've got ground floor commercial with residential above and residential around it. This bill, in one sense, would prohibit us from doing that. So it's really counterproductive. And oddly enough, the people that would be interested in living in those mixed uses are going to do so in some degree because of the amenity of having that ground floor commercial in some proximity. But in looking at the language and the substitute that Mike sent over this morning, like I said, it allows for a study to document whether we need this. And I think that allows us the flexibility to put it into context to make it happen. It's not a good bill, but with the softening of it, it's probably one that we could, stay on the sidelines on without really supporting it. Like I said, it doesn't help us, but with the softening, it probably doesn't hurt us too much.
Scott, so why, I'm just trying to understand, thanks for following up on this. So why would it prohibit us from doing kind of the neighborhood zone that we've been looking at in the UGA update?
The original bill would prohibit a requirement that mixed use and residential and mixed use would require ground floor commercial. And so it's one of those kind of like double negative things. It prohibits us from requiring that ground floor to be commercial in a mixed use or commercial zone and allows for residential to take that place. The biggest concern from all of Wasac was places that depend on kind of the Main Street approach of having ground floor shops with residential above or residential around it. This would prohibit you from requiring those spaces to stay commercial, and they would have to be allowed to be used for residential. The escape clause gives us a chance to sort of ameliorate that. The part about our county code that we're adopting would in fact allow for ground floor commercial in these areas, and this bill on its original surface would prohibit us from doing that.
I thought this bill was focused on like commercial zones, and we were looking at having our neighborhood zoning in more of our residential zones, but I don't know, that's just where I was getting confused.
It does, Commissioner Waldorf, to some degree, but the bill very specifically says commercial or mixed use zones.
Oh, I see.
And so that broadens it to everything that we would want to include.
It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand.
It's a
Like
solution
they're trying
looking
to
for a
create,
problem.
yeah, they're trying to create more flexibility, and it's actually just creating more inflexibility.
I from a community planning perspective, yes, if you're prohibiting the requirement of having that commercially, you're sort of taking away the amenity value of people who might want to live in that walkable place. But it on a broader sense, it's also about adaptive reuse of commercial structures for potential residential use, and we will be tackling that subject as we talk with you guys at the end of the month and for the comprehensive plan. So from our perspective, the changes and the substitute, I think we could remain neutral. I don't think we want to support it in any case, but I don't know that we really need to oppose it.
Any comments there then, commissioners? Because we had, I've just listed as concerns, but based on Scott's comments, do we want to, how do we want to communicate that with the legislature? Or maybe I can work with Scott on some comments and share them with our delegation members. Does that sound like a reasonable approach?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, it sounds like this came out of the governor, right? This original bill.
Yeah,
So
It
it
did.
sounds like they want to give him something, but now they've kind of watered it down. So
well, it's, as you can imagine, it's involved in the politics of the drive to, build more housing and deal
Yes.
with the lack of homes. So it's all part of that. Okay. So yeah, Scott, I'll message you and then maybe we can come up with just a couple, 3 bullet points that we can share with the delegation.
Happy to help.
Okay. Thank you all. Thanks, Scott. That's it for me, commissioners, today, unless you have any other questions about any other bills or anything you want to raise.
Well, on the same note of the affordable housing bills that are out there. There's that one that's out there, House Bill 1859, that's about religious organizations being able
Yeah.
to get more affordable housing if they want to redevelop their property. Do you see that one? That one seems
Yeah.
like a bill that has some legs. Is that?
It's moving. It's in rules already.
So I don't know if that one seemed like one that has a lot of support from a variety of stakeholders. But it would give like a density bonus. I don't know if Scott had looked at that one, Scott Chesney. But it gives
Yeah,
like religious organizations could maybe build on their property, like I guess a more denser development. They'd be allowed to do that for affordable housing.
in fairness, I never raised this with Scott, so sorry, Scott, if that's putting you on the
No,
spot.
that's okay. I haven't looked at it specifically. County code already allows a lot of this, so I think what Commissioner Waldron is referring to, a density bonus, may not be inconsistent with what we would be doing anyway. The concern is, in this case, is always going to be about are there sufficient, capital facilities, notably water and sewer, on the church's site to handle that much density. But philosophically, the county code already allows much of what this is talking about.
Okay, I'll forward it, Scott. Can I forward it to you just to look at? See
Absolutely.
what would be any impacts or how it would change how we're currently.
And then, yeah, Commissioner, and I'll put it on the list to discuss again next week. But based on,
I think there's a sales tax exemption to if you take your current building and you turn it into affordable housing. So similar to what we were just talking about, trying to reuse buildings that might be not being used. So,
okay, I'll put it on and make sure we talk about it again next week.
and the other one that I've been looking at was that land bank, updating some of the land bank policies at the state, House Bill 1974.
Okay,
And that, I think Representative Hill's been working on that, but it would
it's
provide,
moving.
yeah, it would provide a land bank with priority access to surplus land, the ability to obtain tax foreclosed lands before auction, competitive grant program for land banks from the Washington State Housing Finance Commission. Anyway, it looked like some interesting changes to maybe make land banks work better in Washington
Okay.
State.
Okay, yeah. Well, how about, yeah, I'll add that one to the list too, but
Yeah,
it looks like
just-
it's moving.
So maybe Scott I'll send you that one too, just to look at, to
Yep.
see.
I've got it,
Okay,
and I'll put some thoughts down.
thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Scott. Thanks, Commissioner, for raising those.
I see we've got I would send that as well to the treasurer's office as well.
Yes, yeah, because it'd be a property tax. Well, there'd be some, I don't know whether these lands would, potentially they would be out of the tax base, so it'd be interesting to look
I
at
just
that.
got Chris is behind us.
Oh,
So.
hi, Chris.
Hello.
I'll send that to you.
Thank you. Very good. Okay.
Okay. That covers it for me, Commissioners. Thank you. Unless you have
Can
anything
I
else.
ask? Can I
Oh.
ask Mike for next week? Can we get an update on some of the flock legislation, the flock camera legislation? I noticed that did advance out of the Senate, and
Yeah.
I think it was amended up. Had a few amendments or possibly even a striker on it. So if we get a rundown of that next week, that'd be cool.
For sure. Got it. Okay. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
right.
Appreciate it.
See ya.
Okay.
Bye.
I'm now gonna take us to Kevin Ritchie, under sheriff.
All right, good morning. So the first thing I have for you is the Spokane Tribe Impact Mitigation Fund Award. The tribe awarded us $57,000. in this year's award. 25,000 of it is toward the replacement of one of our K9s. And then 32,000 is for 15 gas masks to replace expired gas masks for staff. So just looking for permission to accept the award.
So, and I sit on the committee that gives out those funds, and so everybody puts in an application as to the impacts that they're having and things that they can do that help support investment out there. So these were the things that the committee felt that Spokane County could use. So
As you all know, we've had some bad luck with K9s for the last couple of years, so this award helps out quite a bit, so. And then it's not on the agenda, but I think it was added, correct?
So this is on the February.
Oh, February 17th, okay.
It's just to be the one.
Okay, so yeah, the stop grant award is on the February 17th.
GP.
Okay, awesome. All right.
do you want to, does he need to brief us on it?
Okay, yeah, so this is for the fiscal year 25 or 2025 stop grant award, and it's for $13,248 to support the DV detective training. And so this is just the annual award we get that we apply for, and it helps our training. So 5,760 of it goes to detective training and travel. And then 5,760 will be subawarded to the Spokane Police Department for the same thing, detective training and travel. There's 1,700 in indirects and 4,416 for local match. So it's just to provide our domestic violence detectives, I can't talk to that, some training and everything in the specific field they work in. And it's on the February 17th agenda. Yes. That's all I have.
Okay.
Back on schedule, right?
I know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bill.
Round.
Hey.
Morning, commissioners. This is for a review of the grant agreement. A couple of years back, I agreed to the board about the applying for a grant with the historical society to do a repair, use funds from that and a budget that we have for historical repairs. To apply for a grant to repair the awnings that are up on the upper structure that have failed. I did bring a piece of that if you'd like to look at it, but we found that the fiberglass fibers that they put in the material for those panels had actually had seeped in moisture and actually caused it to fracture. You'll see on the first page there are pictures. These were from the last presentation, so they have gotten a little worse since then. You can see the upper panels of these awnings where they have, you see that damage to them. Next page, you'll just see where the just some more of the damage. The third page picture is more of the metal replacement that they did underneath that. So it is a new metal structure with a pan deck material that's on top of that. There's a moisture barrier, and then they laid these panels on. And then that last picture, this was a couple of years ago when we applied for the grant. This was kind of a temporary patch that we did of the awnings, but you can see that it's just breaking up pretty bad. So this is permission to put the grant on the consent agenda so we can start the engineering for we're gonna try potentially some ideas that we're gonna run by the historical commission, maybe some different types of composite material to replace the existing panels, something that might be a little bit more durable. I think in looking it over, we were thinking that the moisture got under, it would freeze, expand, and then any of the snow that's sloughed off of the steeple up top would hit it and then cause it to fall off. So we're gonna be looking at some different ideas with TDH engineering, and then move forward with the repair. Right now, the grant amount that we were awarded was $488,000. We have 1.2 in that budget for historical repairs, but we're thinking it may come in right about the 1.1 million. To not only are we gonna do that, but if we were going to take advantage, putting the scaffolding up, we would also do a tower cleaning and a kind of a resurfacing. There's kind of it's a material that allows it to still, they coat it on or spray it on, and it allows the mortar that not only do we repair, replace, and inspect, but it allows it to breathe, so it lasts longer. And then we do have one spire on the north side that is tilting a little that we want to, while we have a crane here, and we're working on this, that we can actually get a good look at that and potentially do a repair as kind of an alternate repair. But that was also added into the total cost.
So that's all included in the.
Yes. Yep. So this is to put it on the consent agenda to go forward with the contract that we were awarded. And then we'll start down the road of getting the spec written for this so we can get it out to bid.
And it's a grant from the state historical.
Yes, through Chris Moore. Yeah. Yep.
Just want to make sure.
Yep.
Any questions for Gil? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Takes us to Krista Rouse.
Good morning. We are just looking for approval to write off all of our collectible tax for businesses, personal property, all the homes that have either closed, moved out of the county, unable to locate. $38,000 this year, which is down from the last several years. So better job finding them, or at least not as many closings. There we go. Thank you.
Standard procedure.
I love it. Thank you very much.
Not something you want to. Thanks, Krista.
Yeah.
Okay, that takes Ashley.
Good morning.
Good morning.
For the last many years, Superior Court has had a contract with municipal court to provide jurors for them. It works out that that court pays a part of their juror days to the court, and it's time to renew the 3-year agreement so that Superior Court can continue to do that. The city has already approved it, so I would like to put it on the consent agenda for the VOCC to approve it. Again, this is a good example of courts working as a team to try to be as efficient and less confusing for the taxpayers, so that when somebody regardless of which court receives that juror summons, they all go to the exact same place, they go through the same process, and then my staff divides them out to the various courts that need jurors. No expense, money that comes in, the city pays us.
And we've been doing this for a long time.
For a long time, very efficient, and it works out well for the jurors as well as the courts.
Questions?
All right, we'll get it on the consent agenda.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's going to take us to Doug Chase for a few items.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Several different items. Be succinct here. I believe our first item is a wildland fire risk reduction grant. And this particular grant, this is the first time we are presenting on it. It actually started 2 years ago before we had the pre-brief requirement. And so we have this stage. This is actually a FEMA grant where we are a subrecipient. So Department of Natural Resources is the direct recipient of the grant, and then our opportunity would be to contract with the Department of Natural Resources for these funds. There is a 25% match that FEMA requires, and again, as a primary recipient, DNR and the Department of Emergency Management are covering that 25% match. So we do not have that applicable to us. Next slide, please. The grant opportunity is for $40,000. It would allow us to use 30 of that towards or to have completed wildlife mitigation plans for 4 conservation futures property sites. In anticipation to help reduce the wildfire risk when and if implemented. And then there's a 10,000 portion of this grant that's specific to project management costs, that's specific staff time spent providing direct oversight of the plans and development of plans in conjunction with the consultant. Next slide, please. I mentioned the four sites here where we have an on-call forester. We have a couple on the list, and we have bids in hand. So we're confident that it's an adequate amount to cover the cost. We would be able to complete a fuels reduction plan for our Haynes Conservation Area, Holmberg Conservation Area, Beacon Hill, the portion that the county owns, and the McKenzie Conservation Area. And we are, for performance, we have to have these plans done before the end of May, and we are confident that we can accomplish that. And visiting Forester with a mild winter, they're very itching and ready to go, and ready to get to work on these right away should we accept and proceed. Next slide, please. There is a potential for a phase 2 of this grant. However, just looking ahead, to be specific, we're just here for the 40,000, but we wanted to advise that there may be an opportunity. If we accept this 40,000, we are under no obligation to proceed with the phase 2 if we don't want to. So we can complete the plans. They'll be good for 10 to 15 years. And very, very effective and helpful if we don't move forward. But there may be an opportunity that we can consider at that time for an additional 400,000 that would from this same grant and subrecipient program to implement the mitigation work at the 4 different sites. So we can cross that bridge when we get there, and whether or not it's an option. And I know there are definitely some concerns with it being FEMA money, even though we are contracting or would be contracting directly with DNR. So we'll want to consider that very carefully when and if that opportunity were to come available.
Would like Heather to come up and talk to some of the FEMA experience challenges we've had with the fire, the big fire, Gray and Oregon Road fires. FEMA has asked for the longitude and latitude of every tree we cut, whether we can prove every tree was a certain diameter. Heather's team went out and took pictures. They were able to give some general coordinates. Now they're asking, like, if the tree was actually split at the top, did we have a certified arborist sign off on every individual tree? So just to say it's in the weeds is an understatement, and we haven't been reimbursed yet. So I'll let Heather kind of take it from there, but there have been, just our experience with FEMA is it can be very nitpicky. So there would be a chance we don't get reimbursed. The 40,000, we can certainly absorb that worst case scenario. if we did phase one, I think it would give us some knowledge how that's going before we looked at a phase two for the board's consideration. Do you want to speak some more to FEMA, Heather?
Yeah, FEMA has been, as FEMA is, we know it's challenging when we're dealing with any kind of disaster response or mitigation planning. We have their manuals that give us their initial guidance, but as the military department and FEMA are going through those awards, I want to make sure that we're maintaining a good relationship with DNR in this situation, because we do get other funding that's not related to FEMA through DNR. And ultimately FEMA is going to be the one that pays these bills. And so if FEMA doesn't like the documentation, they're gonna go back to Washington Military Department, who's gonna go back to DNR, who's gonna come back to us. So we need to make sure we follow all of FEMA's rules, or we're gonna be cleaning it up after the fact. Trying to clean it up after the fact, maybe 2 years after you do it, it's very difficult. Kyle can speak to how much I've had to go back to his team and ask questions after the fact, just on the firework. They came back and asked for the actual GPS coordinate to every tree we removed. They wanted to know where we cut it off. They wanted to know if we staged them after they were cut down, where they were staged, what was the type of road they were staged on, and what we did with the trees once they were cut down, where they were hauled to, the equipment that was used on each one. There's a lot more work into doing this than just writing a plan and going into it. And the reality is the grant staff is already at capacity. We cannot ask them to do any more. They are doing the day-to-day grant work for multiple departments that either do not have the staff or that staff is not able to do the work, and they were at max capacity. There is no more capacity to do this work without more staff. Neither of these grants has any administrative or indirect costs. So the county is absorbing all of the costs, both on the plan and phase two, if we do opt to go to that.
I can attest to the challenges that we've gone with the fire recovery in the trees. It's in considering that you're in an emergency and you're trying to keep the public safe, to have all these requirements that aren't, come back after the fact when you're in the midst of an emergency it's awful. It's just downright awful. A couple points, just points of difference here. This is a different pot of money than emergency response money from FEMA, and that money is already at the state. So while they have to sign off, we're not waiting in theory for everything to go through the feds. I think just even knowing what I know about the emergency one, there is kind of a cool opportunity here in that even if we just do phase one for the 40 grand aids, it's a lower risk. It's a different risk pool. It's through DNR. And those plans have value to us. A forest management plan, a fuels reduction plan, that could sit on the shelf for another 15 years until the right opportunity came through. And there are other opportunities. So as we learn more about what they might require, we might just say, we're not interested in this money for this project, but we can use those plans for the next funding opportunity that may not be FEMA tied to it. And there is another one coming up later this year. So it's kind of a low risk foot in the door, keeps a good relationship with DNR. There's a little bit of reassurance in that it's low dollars. The money's already at the state level. And DNR is willing to support the paperwork with FEMA. We obviously have to get them everything, but they're actually going to be doing a lot of the administrative burden with FEMA. Oh, there was one last thing on that, which is just oh, sorry, I lost my train of thought on that, but there's it might not be worth going to phase two, but doing phase one also will allow us a little bit of time to understand what phase two might better look like. And even we can make a risk benefit analysis on this, but if we're successful in actually getting through the fire reimbursement, we would at least then know what we're getting into, kind of like, if that's the worst case, we can include all that ridiculous work that Grants and my team have been doing in the fuels reduction contract, where they are doing those assessments, GPSing every tree, measuring every tree while the works begin, and have that part of the fuels reduction contract. So we can, even if it'd still be a judgment decision at the time of the risk benefit of it, but those could be contractual requirements of the actual fuels reduction firm, such that we aren't trying to take it on county staff.
And for phase one, we do have M&O dollars from Conservation Futures that could provide, again, worst case scenario, because the state does have the funds in hand, so we're not anticipating a challenge with phase one. But if we were to have it, we have M&O dollars that are for this purpose. And it's the type of investment we would make with those dollars. So we feel very comfortable with the phase one, that it's a win-win, and absolute worst case scenario, this is how we would use that M&O dollars for care and maintenance of these properties that are specific to Conservation Futures.
So there wouldn't be any worst case scenario, minutia gets so ridiculous, we don't get money back. It wouldn't impact general fund. Because of conservation.
Yeah, we don't
futures.
impact general fund.
So it's a great thought. Good when you know it's not as clean and simple as some.
So have we gotten some of these fuels reduction grants before? Through DNR?
We have definitely worked with DNR on fuels reduction. In fact, we'll be speaking to one that they're covering the complete cost of, that Jonathan will speak to later, but they come from a different funding source.
This is the first time
This is the first time we're a sub-recipient to a FEMA grant, and it's something that DNR is trying, and they're handling that key reporting role to make it easier for local jurisdictions, is what they've explained when we've met with them. So their goal is to help make this manageable and to prevent us from being in the position that you all have dealt with on on the emergency side. And I think they were as much explaining that there might even be different criteria within FEMA for that emergency side versus this particular pot of money. And it's, one thing's clear, it's very, very complex when FEMA's involved. But at this phase, we feel it's very straightforward as far as completing the plans, and relatively low risk, and could certainly be a benefit to the properties as we try to do what we can to manage those to reduce the likelihood for a forest fire.
Yeah, it seems pretty low risk to do phase one. And I think we really need to put those we need to have those plans. Whether or not we go to phase two with this grant source.
Yeah, we could look at other sources down the road.
Yeah, concerned about we're gonna have a tough season this year, and who knows where we're gonna be going in the future. So we need to manage these lands, because down the road, if we don't, it'll end up costing us more.
It seems like FEMA is trying to put dollars in to ward off having
Which is
disasters
prevention
in the future. So,
Right.
I mean, I agree. I mean, I think if we don't accept this, grant and see how this $40,000 goes, I think that puts us as a county at risk for, if there's another wildfire in one of these areas. I mean, we could be, we know. Yes, we know that the risk is there. We turned away a source to help us, take care of it. So I think it's worth the 40,000, because I do think it's coming from a different part of FEMA. I think on the recovery side, they're always much stricter and crazy, versus this seems like it's, from a different side to try to be preventative. And if DNR already has the funds, that's a lot less risk than us trying to recoup funds from FEMA that they don't know. So I would want to move forward 40,000, see how this goes, to then have the potential for phase two.
Agree.
Great, okay. And yeah, that is our next step. Then we'll work with grants and DNR to finalize the grant agreement and bring it before you at a legislative meeting to enter and receive the grant. Thank you. Okay, and next presentation.
And Heather, I appreciate the information. I mean, understanding all that, because I mean, it's. Yeah, and when you're, as we, Commissioner French and Commissioner Kernsdale, when you're that, just trying to recover, it's like, it's an emergency.
Yeah, we don't want to live through what they have gone through. And if phase two is that we don't want to do that, but I think there's great value to these plans and I think there's low risk. Right, on our next project, this is specific to our Liberty Lake golf course and Liberty Lake and Meadowwood maintenance facility and driving range. And so we're going to begin with, you may recall, we have 5 million total for these two projects via the bond. Next slide, please. 4 million of that is earmarked for the maintenance facility and 1 million is earmarked for the driving range. And Julia is going to speak to the maintenance facility.
Thanks, Doug. I'm going to start with an overview of the drivers of this project and some project specifics, and then end with why we're here today, which is to ask for your support in pursuing an alternative delivery method for this project. The original building that the maintenance facility is housed in was built in 1960. It's since grown organically over time, but has come to exceed the current capacity and has some compliancy shortfalls in the current facility. Design West, an architecture firm, helped us with a feasibility study last year, which evaluated the current facility and its spaces and its compliancy. Through that feasibility study, it was outlined that a new building was kind of the best path forward to address both the need for space and the compliancy concerns. And that study outlined some categories as the highest concern, which were those of fuel storage areas, chemical storage areas, ADA concerns, fire code, and stormwater. Next slide, please. The USGA recommends a range of square footage for maintenance facilities for 18-hole golf courses. That range is recommended between 7,500 and 10,000 square feet for one 18-hole golf course. Feasibility study showed that at a minimum, we're undersized by about 2,700 square feet, and on the high end, 8,700 square feet. So you can see there's definitely a need for additional space there. In addition to that, there's some challenges with technology protection against elements of dust in the facility and limited room for staff meeting spaces, offices, and just general staff space. Next slide, please. The feasibility study outlined 2 possible phases for improvements to the site. This image shows phase 1 is the green building there on the screen, and phase 2 would be a removal of the existing building and build of a new storage building there in blue. Next slide, please. So this breaks down the possible phases a little bit more in detail. The feasibility study suggested the first building would address all of the major compliancy concerns, the chemical storage, the fuel storage, and start to work towards a better mechanical operating space and staff spaces. It would also look at a possibility of paving an access road through a portion of the site. And then the phase 2, like I mentioned, would remove the existing building and look at future storage and additional site improvements. Fine. So as Doug mentioned, there's 4 million earmarked for this project. Phase 1 in the feasibility study was estimated between 3.3 and 3.6 million. if we were to pursue alternative delivery method, which is what we're suggesting for today, there is an opportunity to pick up some betterments through that between the phases. And Doug, I was going to speak, I think, to the flexibility in the golf fund as well.
Yes, as we go through that process and the betterments, there is an opportunity. We have a little bit of room within the golf fund itself. So if there was an opportunity that warranted a few more dollars in investment, we would be in a position to consider it at that time. And so we feel really good about this process, how it works in identifying efficiencies, maximizing efficiencies through that team approach. And again, it's just nice to know we are in a position to consider that as we go forward. So if we could further delay the need for phase 2 by incorporating some of the more critical elements, that's something that, again, this process will allow us to look at that. And as you know, anytime you go through a construction process, there are always items that come up. It could be that we have more pavement than we originally anticipated or other areas.
Next slide, please. So the county has done several alternative delivery method projects, and we've been speaking with Kyle, vetting the different options for this project, but just wanted to highlight some of the things that we think are opportunities in this process for this project. In the past, we've seen it as a highly collaborative process where the designers and the builders are really working together to help save the owner funds and come up with solutions that allow us to do that. We also see that there's a potential to navigate a schedule in a way that assists with operations of the golf course while it's open. We're working with the contractor during design to determine if there's ways to expedite the schedule for, say, an early earthwork package to do earthwork and utility work maybe in the fall, and then allow construction for a building to start in the spring outside of some of the golf season to get to a point where we're really minimizing impact on the facility when it's in full operation. Those are some of the highlights of why we think it could be successful. Next slide, please. So if we were supported in pursuing the alternative delivery method, this is a draft schedule. We would look to start procurement of an owner's rep here very shortly. And our target would be presenting at the PRC in May. Slide. And then, like I mentioned, we've appreciated assistance from Kyle in vetting these options, and we'd like to ask for your support in opening an RFQ to pursue an owner's representative, as well as working with legal counsel to appoint special legal representation so that we have the expertise on board and ready for a PRC submittal. With that, I'll open it to questions.
I'll say it seems like we've been successful in doing this alternative process, and we've done it the stadium, we've done it with the public works building. So I mean, it seems in the stadium it was definitely advantageous to have.
Continues to be very advantageous.
Yes, as a contractor on board that is, willing to look at what those time schedules are to make it, as least disruptive to the citizens that are using the facilities.
Yes.
So, I definitely heard good things and that it has saved us funding. So I don't it's not to using an alternative process. Josh, Commissioner Kearns.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner CUNY. I think we've had success in the alternative delivery system. I'll support you on that. My only question that I had was the photographs you showed of the current facility. yes, it's old, but I think we also see kind of a lack of care for that facility. I mean, when those photographs of the locker rooms and the restrooms are disgusting. I mean, does anybody clean any of those rooms, any of that facility? And do we have any assurance that a new facility is going to be treated any better? I mean,
Well,
the shower had trash in it. There are buckets piled up. I mean, that shower pan, the toilet looked cleaner than the shower pan in there. And that sink didn't look like it had been scrubbed in probably over a year. I mean, is a new facility going to be cared for any better than the old one?
well, I guess, Commissioner, I can, from my perspective, I understand they operate with a lot of doors open. Right now, all the equipment is going in and out of that building that you're looking at there. This would separate the equipment from where they're meeting. So you would not have all the dirt blowing through the building constantly for ventilation. I will say that locker room looks identical to the day I started over 25 years ago. So it may not be much, but it looks equally great or awful as to what they've had for at least the last 25 years. And I think the facility is closer to 50, 40 plus years old. And so I think they've tried to care for it and sustain it in that existing condition. But if I could describe a ton of your storage of equipment, dirt floors in the original part of the storage building, all gravel and dirt outside of the building, and everything open and ventilated during a very, very hot summer, literally dirt blows through everywhere. And with one sink to clean up in, if it were to be cleaned at the end of the day, it takes one person washing their hands and the dirt off to make it look like it hasn't been cared for. So I think they have tried to take care of what they have, and maintain what they have and make the best of what they have, but it is challenging conditions and certainly very challenging for computer equipment. So with this standalone building, we'll keep the equipment in equipment storage, and there shouldn't be the dirt and the dust blowing through freely the way that it currently does in how they operate now.
So the photographs of the restroom, that's open to the rest of the building?
There's a door, and that restroom looks exactly like the day I started 25 years ago.
So no one's cleaned it in 25 years.
Or they clean it and it's dirty back up. I think it's been cleaned and dirty 1,000 times over.
Okay. Well, let's make sure we take care of the new facility a little more than this one.
I am confident they will.
Any other questions?
Okay, next slide, please. Combined an update on the, again, the driving range net project that I mentioned at the start of the presentation. We were originally going to combine this with the maintenance facility as a single project. However, this last December, we had a heck of a windstorm and we had 5 of our range poles snapped. And there's a photo of that. And I think I mentioned that a few weeks back and have been looking forward to sharing a little more on that. And so we're looking at, because of the fact that it's inoperable right now, we are escalating the time frame on this. We're separating it out as a standalone project. And we're looking to replace the existing 30-foot tall netting with 70-foot tall along Sprague Ave in the end or the back of the range, and then 50 feet tall on the interior. Next slide, please. And again, we have the $1 million identified from the bond. We have $100,000 from risk management to contribute towards this. There may be some additional dollars from an emergency management claim related to that wind event. Kurt has submitted info on that. We're not counting on it, but it could be helpful if it comes through. Again, we have, in this case, we're looking to escalate this by putting an invitation to bid out right away, with a ideal goal of having the project completed in June. So we'll be up and operating, but ideally before our peak season so that the range can be fully functional. We are looking at steel poles for the site. We've had, prior to this event, I think we've had 2 other poles out there previously snapped, and we've replaced those with steel. The steel poles, I believe, have a lifespan of about 60 years. Where the wood ones are, should have at least a 20-year span. And so they are a little bit more expensive. But as you can see, this site has been very prone to wind events. And we believe the steel certainly, they're not impenetrable, but I believe they are known to be a little more resistant to wind events. The city of Liberty Lake has steel poles nearby, and to the best of my knowledge, they have not suffered damage. And their poles are about, I think, 80 feet high where they're at, and have withstood a lot of these wind events without issue. Next slide, please. So for this, our next step would be to open an invitation to bid, put it out, and within that, we're looking to have the bids include engineering, because it's required to have engineering, and we're able to combine that and package that together. So we'll be, again, with your support, and head this out. We will head that direction, get that invitation to bid out, and hopefully be back in front of you here in the very near future with a bid to accept, to try to move that forward as quickly as we can. Happy to answer any questions.
I think, yes, doing the steel will definitely be better. As we all know, the wind at Liberty Lake is stronger than a lot of other areas. I mean, it's just interesting how much the wind blows out there.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think that'd be much better.
We've had several events over the last couple of decades where it's taken trees down on the course, and so we really want to learn from that, and we're optimistic that we're going to be able to accomplish this with the budget that we have, and in a way that will last, unlike the prior version. So, all right, and then I think we have that's it for these projects, and we have one last one on the list, just a feel-good update. So I'm going to share.
Feel good update.
Yes, this is good stuff.
So I'm here to brief you on an opportunity we have to perform some fuels reduction, wildfire fuels reduction out of Fish Lake Park in the Myers property. I think you'll recall a little less than a year ago, we purchased the Myers property, which is adjacent to Fish Lake property. And since then, we have been taking down all the buildings, working with contractors to remove all the associated debris. We've done environmental and cultural resources surveys there. And then we also contracted with the DNR's inmate program to remove additional debris. Through relationships with the inmate program and then also DNR's forestry program, it was brought to our attention that the DNR would put together forestry plans or fuels reduction plans for us. That's what they do, and that would be free of cost. In addition, as this was kind of moving through kind of a conversation, they identified this project as a good project for a project they would like to spend their money on and reduce the fuels on this property. So this is we already have a plan in place. They've already drafted a plan. We need to sign that plan. Maybe we can go to the next slide. The plan is for hazard tree removal, fire reduction prescription, which means certain size trees are gonna be removed. Vegetative underbrush is gonna be removed. Other actions, they have identified some plants to remain, some to be removed. Again, all this, all the planning, all the implementation is going to be funded through DNR and their general fund. And it's only made possible through the relationships with DNR, and I think Heather's concern is appropriate. Our relationships with DNR that we've built over the years and that we've built, you know, with our ongoing relationships with them. Next slide, please. So we can handle this administratively. The next process would be for us to sign their fuels plan, and then we would issue a special use permit for them to do the work on our property, and then make sure that everything is copacetic with legal and insurance risk review. And then we go along and coordinate this work with DNR, hopefully here in the next month or so. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, no cost to the county, and you may recall they did similar work at no cost up at Bear Lake. That worked out very, very well during, in conjunction with the renovation work we had up there about a year ago. So we're very, very pleased with the outcome, and again, great example, Kurt, Jonathan, really work well with DNR, and we're excited to have a project or an opportunity like this. So wonderful. Bring that to the boards where it is, and it looks good. We'll proceed.
And I think any of the fuel reduction that we can do, it's gonna be important. Like Commissioner Walter said, I mean, with our low snow, precipitation this winter, I think I was just talking to the sheriff the other day, and he was saying that they're very concerned about what the fire season is gonna be, so.
Right. And we have another grant that will be coming to brief you on here in the near future, also related to wildfire mitigation work and much more significant. So we're just waiting on some final agreement. Again, another subrecipient, but this is very significant through I think the USDA and several other agencies.
Yeah.
So we'll be excited to share that with you here, hopefully in the next 4 weeks or so. We're waiting to get the final info on that. Same type of work.
Nice job.
So thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
The next one is our annual agreement with GSI. So it's just standard what you're used to seeing. Historically, at least my years here, has been for 200,000. Each year, you'll recall in the budget process, it was reduced to 175 this year, as all outside agencies receive reduced funding just due to the nature of where government revenues are. It still includes what you're used to, per the membership level, the 4 tables a year at those signature events, as they call it, and the fly-in packages. So the only change is the reduce amount of 25,000. And set next week unless there's concerns.
Kyle.
This last one, they put in a bunch of different equipment purchases that would normally just get passed through to consent. We ended up with so many in 1 week that we thought you guys would look at it and go, what are y'all doing? So I asked Kyle just to kind of give a quick overview of what it is.
We are
To alleviate questions next week.
Yeah, once we get into the new year, our staff in our central shop get going right away on the approved purchases. So we briefed these for you in December, it's just 2 months ago. And there's a lot of them on order orders prepared for your approval here in the coming weeks. So we're spending a few $1 million very quickly, and I want to make sure you're well aware of it. other than, we got a couple of scraps vehicles on there, but otherwise, some 250s, some Ford Mavericks, Rangers. We need to, our weed herbicide trucks are end of life and need replacing. The big numbers you'll see are replacing Class 8 dump trucks that have reached the end of life. Those things are really expensive, not to be outdone by the paint striper, which we also briefed on, which is, you know, by far the most expensive vehicle in our fleet. And then a loop truck as well to service our vehicles out away from the central shop and particularly at our solid waste transfer stations. The one difference than what we proposed versus what is listed here is those 4 F-250s. We were gonna try out integrating some F-150s into the mix, and there was no discount for doing so. So the 250s are a more versatile vehicle for us because we can carry fuel out to graders. You know, we'll equip them out with fuel tanks. We'll reuse the last ones, but that's why we go the 250s typically, is it allows us to get out and refuel equipment wherever they might be all over Spokane County on a rural road. Do the next slide, Ron.
I want to point out the lube truck is on this afternoon's agenda, because there was a time crunch to get that one moving forward. The rest of them will be on consent next week.
So we've got about 3.2 million in purchase coming in the next 2 weeks. And you can see the breakdown there right there. You can see how gnarly that striper is and the dump trucks. Everything else is, I mean, it's what we budgeted for. It's just still makes me choke when I see some of those numbers. Let's go to the next slide, Ron. So we've got about 3.2 on right now. Just so you know, the budget for this year, a little higher than normal, particularly because of the striper truck. So we're at about 5 million plus for the year. So you'll see more coming through, but as Jeff mentioned, with as much as we're proposing to move forward in the next 2 weeks, I just wanted to make sure nobody had sticker shock and wonder what we were doing. This is all the approved purchase plan. So it's not the whole plan has already been approved by the board. We do that in conjunction with our rate setting. So we set rates and the purchase plan for the year before the at the end of the prior year. These all come through on various Sourcewell contracts for the suppliers for each individual purchase. That's all I have. Questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Gonna take us to miscellaneous, and so as we talked about the special meeting that is gonna be Thursday, February 12th at 10 a.m. The agenda, so Matt Folsom and Mike Piccolo have been working through the agenda.
I reviewed the agenda. It was provided to me. I don't see any issues with it.
I think President of the Council, Volker, said has, as she sits on both boards, she was the one who put this together and talked to attorneys at, my understanding, all the boards to make sure everything was appropriate.
I'm not sure there's gonna be a quorum of the airport.
There will not be.
Okay. So the airport board won't have a quorum there, so. And I think we're just saying it's just a joint city county. So,
We should have a quorum of both of those.
okay. So. So we talked about trying to have through some of the topics and maybe potentially go into executive session. So,
I am not sure whether we will be going into executive session or not. I've received mixed communication on that, so I'm not sure.
okay,
Next communication from who?
The attorneys met and didn't identify any reason to go into exec session. And then city staff communicated we would be going into exec session at a Department of Ecology meeting. So I'm not sure where the disconnect is.
I was told that we were, so
there we go.
Interesting. That doesn't mean that I was told accurately. I was just, you told me that just to humor me, but.
yeah, understanding we may, so.
Commissioner, would you like any representation from Public Works?
You're welcome to be at the meeting. It will be a public meeting, and so you're welcome to be there. On,
So I would say as it stands right now, I have no information that we will be going into executive session.
we may want to leave the possibility.
The possibility should definitely stay
Always
on the
happens, yes.
agenda. A lot can happen between today and Thursday.
It is ever changing, that's what I know. 'Cause, yes.
Well, thanks to all who worked hard to find a magic date and time.
So is it the goal to talk about the latest love letter that we got from Ecology or not?
Well, we will be going into executive session today. We could talk more about it then.
Okay.
That's-
No, that, I mean, it's, yeah, you're gonna brief us on some new developments. Okay. I'm assuming that that will be a topic for Thursday as well.
I have reviewed the agenda. Everything that's on the agenda, I think is what's gonna be discussed.
Okay.
Okay, and we have the possibility of an executive session.
If there's anything that we need to discuss in that kind of setting.
He's still reeling from.
Yeah. So would it be possible for us to have an executive session for the county and not include the airport or the city of Spokane?
After the joint session? That's a good question.
Thank you.
Don't know the
I worked
answer.
all day on it.
Yeah. I know we can go into executive session for items that qualify under the statute today or this afternoon.
Okay.
Okay,
Just a quick FYI, next week our kids are out of school. We have a trip up down to Phoenix. So I'll just be out next week.
you can sunshine today.
Sunshine today.
Wow.
We're gonna put some warmth behind it next week.
Yes, not quite pool weather. But,
Exactly.
Could I bring up something in miscellaneous? I forgot to bring this up last week, but we got the news that Senator, Murray got the congressional spending for the $3 million towards our expansion of our sobering beds for our crisis treatment center and recovery center. So I was thinking we probably should do some sort of press release about receiving those funds and just thanking Senator Murray and others for their support. So I don't think it's too late. I think she's still putting out information about her different investments that she got included in the congressional authorization. So, yes.
You guys are good with that?
I think that'd be great.
And definitely an invite to the groundbreaking.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, so if we have to click on a link or call a set, give her the information on that, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then, I guess I will just make my announcement that I did get married over the weekend. So I will be changing my name to Mary Brooks here in the future.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And that there will be an announcement on my Facebook page later today that I will not be seeking re-election. So just letting everyone know at the same time, and the information will be out on my Facebook page later today, and Martha Lou may be putting out a statement, so people know, but just wanted to, the decision was made, and so wanted to let everyone know.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. So any other miscellaneous items?
In case you missed it, we had a news release go out about rate restrictions for Spokane County roads. It received some initial coverage. And then as roads have started to be weight restricted, and the list is growing. It's also in the paper today. We received some coverage about vandalism at Bear Lake. Unfortunately, KXLY was incorrect, so that was taken care of. And then it was picked up by the other stations as well as the spokesman. And then a release is going out today about President's Day. So, and that county offices will be closed. So yes, Commissioner Waldron, if you could send me information about that, I'd appreciate it very much. Thank you. And your statement. Yes, congratulations.
Thank you.
So I wanted to give you a little bit more background on the conversation that happened at Wasac relative to the motor vehicle excise tax and ongoing discussions with the state about how the state would like to be able to fund that obligation. There's no argument that the obligation is not legitimate. The conversation is about how does the state pay for it? And there was quite a bit of debate about it. In fact, I put forward a motion that said that the counties ought to receive the money with no strings attached, as it would have been distributed on the original, had the state not withheld the funds. That motion failed by just a couple votes. And then motion was made to direct staff to negotiate to get to a settlement structure. And more than likely, it would be a either half $20 million for 5 years would go into the new program that was established last year for counties to build, to fund local improvements, local road improvements. We currently don't, we fund that out of our general road tax, but there's no state assistance. And so last year we created a new program for local roads for counties, but it was unfunded. And so the state is suggesting the funding, which was targeted at 40 million, 20 of it would be a reimbursement of the sales tax, which means that if the state had funded the program to the level it should have been, we would have got the extra 20 million in addition to. The state is saying, well, let's bait and switch you and we'll just include it as part of this obligation. The other alternative is that they would distribute it over a 20-year period, so much every year to the county based upon the formula that we would have originally been entitled to. The only challenge with that proposal is we're financing it interest-free for 20 years. There's no provision to pay us for interest, even though they are using technically our money to finance the general fund. So the majority of the LLC said, get the best deal you can. And neither one of the two options on the table are very attractive from my standpoint. It just, especially with 7 million supposed to be coming to the county, I didn't want to arbitrarily lend that to the state. So I just want to give you additional context for that conversation. And if you have any wisdom that you want to impart on me, feel free and I'll carry it forward. But that's kind of where we're at. Thank you.
Thanks at the end of miscellaneous. And I'll look to Matt.
2 executive session items this morning, approximately 40 minutes. First one, pending and potential litigation. No action is anticipated at the end. Matt Folsom, Jeff McMorris, Devin Curda, Kyle Tuig, Ben Bradabo. The second, 10 minutes, pending and potential litigation. Again, no action. Matt Folsom, Jeff McMorris, Deb.
We're going in for 15 minutes. Go.
40.
I just went 50.
Okay.
You've never been over.
40 total for those two items.
Correct. 30 and 10,
30 and 10.
guaranteed.
Exactly. Okay, we will be going into executive session for 40 minutes. At the end of that executive session, we will adjourn for the morning and then we'll see everybody back for our 2 o'clock. Thank you.